Okay, so this story kicks off in a fifth-grade classroom with the teacher who wasn't just, a little boring. He was a serious problem. His name was Mr. Flexer, and he was the kind of teacher who just droned on and on, facing the blackboard with chalk dust flying everywhere. He almost never even looked at his students, and when he did, it was usually to slap them with detention for something like passing a note. Now, after having the amazing Mrs. Barnard for fourth grade, this guy was a total, brutal disappointment. Now, at the heart of this class, we've got two best friends, Heather and Badha. They've been inseparable since second grade, but their normal, everyday school routine was about to get turned upside down. It all started one morning when Heather got to school just a little bit early. So she's standing right outside her classroom, and the door is just slightly cracked open. She peeks inside and sees Mr. Flexer, and he's in there with Mrs. Barnard, of all people. And then she sees him take this glowing purple ball out of his desk, show it to Mrs. Barnard, and mumble something she couldn't quite make out.
Heather obviously could not wait to tell Badha. She finds her in the locker room after lunch and just spills the entire bizarre story. And the strangest part of it all, Mrs. Barnard, the teacher who always had a huge smile and a hello for every single kid, walked right past Heather like she was invisible.
All of a sudden, bam! A huge bang on the door makes them both jump. It was Mr. Flexer. He drags them out into the hall, gives them detention for the rest of recess, and then he gives them this warning. Your parents will be hearing all about this at the parent-teacher conferences today after school.
That detention, though, actually led them to another clue, one that showed this whole weird problem was way bigger than just their classroom. So, while they're waiting for their parents near the main office, Heather and Badha overhear the school secretaries talking. And get this, the principal is retiring. And who's in the running for the job? Both Mr. Flexer and Mrs. Barnard. And there was this wild rumor that the students might actually get a vote in the decision. So later that night at dinner, Heather tries to bring up everything that's bothering her, but her mom just goes, "Don't worry about it, sweetie," and her dad's first idea is to just switch schools. Meanwhile, her grandpa, who didn't have his hearing aids in, thought she was talking about school costumes. Nobody was actually hearing her. So she's heading to her room, totally defeated, and she sees her mom's coat hanging on the railing. And coming out of the pocket is this faint, purple glow. Heather reaches inside and she pulls out a small marble, a perfect, tiny little copy of that glowing purple ball from Mr. Flexer's desk. She immediately grabs the walkie-talkie she keeps for emergencies. A second later, Vada's witch crackles through. After a frantic search, Vada confirms it. Her mom has a glowing purple marble too, and she wasn't listening either. It turned out none of the fifth-grade parents were.
Okay, so with the problem clearly getting worse, all 25 fifth graders agreed they had to meet at the school playground that Saturday to come up with a plan.
The second Heather finished explaining what they knew, the playground just erupted into total chaos. I mean, kids were yelling, saying the idea was dumb, some wanted to call the police, others were suggesting they go smash Mr. Flexer's car. It was a complete mess. No one was getting anywhere.
Then, Badha just yelled for everyone to stop. And she pointed out what was so obvious. They were all acting exactly like the cursed grown-ups, just talking over each other, denying there was a problem, and not listening at all.
So she laid out a new plan. And it was really simple. Everyone had to pair up and just follow 4 basic rules for how to have a real conversation. So they tried it. And as these pairs of students started actually talking and, more importantly, truly listening to each other, something incredible started to happen. The 7 glowing marbles that kids had brought from home began to dim. Their light just faded away until they were nothing more than dirty old bouncing balls.
The realization just washed over all of them at once. It seemed totally impossible, but the proof was right there in their hands. The cure for the curse was listening.
Armed with this brand new superpower, the 5th graders walked into school on Monday morning, and they had a plan.
Before Mr. Flexer could even begin his lesson, Badha raised her hand and asked him how the principal's retirement was going to affect him. Well, he exploded, yelling that it was none of their business. But instead of arguing back, Badha just calmly said, "You sound upset." Then another student quietly repeated his words back at him. And as they kept using these techniques, asking questions, acknowledging what he was feeling, Mr. Flexer started revealing more and more of his frustration and his whole plan. And while he was completely distracted, Heather snuck up to his desk, opened the drawer, and pulled out the big purple orb. She held it up high for the whole class to see. It wasn't glowing anymore. It had gone completely gray. Mr. Flexer froze.
"No!" he shouted. "You brats have ruined my plan."
So the kids had defeated him. But for Heather, there was one last test, trying out her new listening skills on her own family. At the dinner table that night, she was really nervous, but she asked her parents what they had talked about with Mr. Flexer at the conference. Her mom started to brush it off, still a little bit under the spell. But Heather gently pressed, just saying she couldn't help but be curious.
Her mom paused, put down her fork, and admitted he was a weird guy. And they started talking, really talking, about how awkward those parent-teacher conferences can be. And then her mom asked a simple question. What do you think of him? That's when Heather knew. They were listening. Heather told them she really didn't like him and that she tried to tell them before. Her dad even admitted that he'd been trying to fix her problem instead of just listening to it. So Heather began to tell them everything. And that's how a group of fifth graders, who were facing a problem that nobody seemed to hear, learned how to listen, and in doing so, found a way to be heard themselves.